Yeah, but so basically the paint looks like sing nicely at him.
You know, the Space Marine, he's progressing reasonably well. I imagine in the next few days I'll get a lot more done, and it'll look a lot more than just like a silver, a silver model. But yeah, Eric, you finished painting an Arco-Flagellant, right?
Yeah, no, I had assembled like 5 of the just plastic Sisters of Battle in one of these Arco-Flagellants from just that army box, just kind of to see how the models were. And I've largely finished painting the Sisters and decide, you know what, I should really paint this model too, such that all of the ones I have are just finished and I can be done with them. So yeah.
So one thing that's weird, like, so with this,
Dave's back. He made a Twitch account just for us. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, thanks.
You didn't really miss anything aside from us talking about how we violated YouTube's terms of service, I guess, somehow.
Yeah, well, if anything, I would say we violated Twitch's.
Yeah,
I don't know. Well, it doesn't matter much. We'll see what happens. But yeah, so I painted this, and it was interesting. It was kind of refreshing to paint from the Sisters of Battle, because I don't know. I mean, I guess there were a bunch of little details here and there, but they were all pretty simple, and a lot of it was metal or just skin, and it was pretty quick, the whole model, and that in itself was nice. And there was no like, oh, I glued on this bolter and now it's a pain in the ass to paint behind it, like those sorts of things. None of those concerns were there. There was no like, oh, I can't get in the inner part of those robes, like it's hard to get paint in there, like all those sort of frustrations.
Yeah, well, was the model, did you actually just have it glued on the base, or did you paint it and then glue it on
the base? No, it was glued on.
That's the best.
So that in itself was quick too and easier. So it was a refreshing change of pace, like I said. And I think it turned out relatively nice. The skin was just painted kind of traditionally, although it kind of more towards the end I used Darkoth or Dracoth flesh is like a contrast paint.
Okay, yeah.
And I thinned it down a little bit and kind of used it to almost glaze in some areas to darken some of the areas.
But so actually, I have a question for you, Eric. Looking at the one side view of the model, on the back of his left shoulder, there's like, is that like a seam where you like glued 2 halves together or whatever?
Yeah.
Do you think you could add a bunch more of like those like red and purple washes and stuff in along there to kind of make it look like that is actually more of like a wound or something? Rather than
that. Yeah, I should have
filled that in with like modeling putty or something.
There was another slight area that I should have done more with that. And I don't know, I even had to use modeling putty to fill in the base, like how it attached to the base. I don't really know why I didn't do that.
Well, so one thing that I found that you can do, even after you've painted the model, like once you're painting the model, if you have to go and add modeling putty or something to the model, that can be really a pain, and it can be pretty hard to do. Although I found more recently, if you do need to fill in a seam or something like that, even if your model's already painted, if you just get straight milliput and then mix the 2 components of it together and then essentially add enough water to it such that you can kind of essentially paint it on, you can just paint it into those like little seams, get a really nice smooth smooth transition, because it's like you're largely just painting it on. It takes a long time for it to like actually harden, so you can largely paint away any of the unwanted milliput, and you'll just have it in that little seam there. You can wait until it hardens, and then just paint right over top of it.
Yeah, so that's kind of nice. Like how watery and thin is it?
What I would do is you mix the two together, get a little of it, and kind of with a color shaper or something, largely get it close to where you want it to be, and then start adding water to it, and you can kind of just brush it off. Yeah. And once, as you add more and more water to it, it really becomes like kind of like silty, or like it's sort of something you have to kind of just experience for yourself and experiment around with it. But based on how it reacts with water, you're not going to be like tearing away the paint or anything like that you've done. And since it becomes so like slick and slimy, you can get really smooth and nice transitions on the model itself, such that when you go in and paint, like, you don't really have to worry about, oh, now that you've added some modeling putty, now you have these other like transition lines and stuff where the putty ends and the plastic or the paint begins. So that is just a potential tip for anyone listening. If you've ever run into something where like you're far into painting something and then you really decide, you know what, I'm not happy with how this looks, is there anything I can do to kind of remedy something like that? But I feel with this model, at least on his upper shoulder there, to me that you could easily kind of paint that to be like it was kind of like a wound or something that was poorly sutured or something. But regardless, I think it looks good. But yeah, so milliput's really useful. If you don't have it, you should get some.
Ward Sylvanius said that the violation of terms of service was inevitable, given how edgy and controversial our streams are about painting tiny toy soldiers. And yep, you're right.
True.
We're always bringing up the controversial issues.
We sure are. Yeah, maybe I'll just try to make it look a little bit more red. I feel that's easier. Since actually those pictures, I actually also went back and glazed in a little purple around the edges of the wound too. But I feel the purple I have isn't maybe the best purple. It's a little bit possibly slightly pastel looking, which maybe isn't the best, but I didn't use too much of it, so I don't think it matters that much.
Well, yeah, the Vallejo plastic putty, like, you can kind of do like a similar thing with that. I've not worked with it enough to get a good handle on how well or how poorly it works.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah. With the milliput, what's nice about it is it takes quite a while for it to actually harden. And so particularly if you're trying to fix a seam on something you've already partially painted, it works well for that. But yeah, so with this model largely finished, the final one is the one with the flamethrower, and like you're sort of just finishing up the burned or charred corpse on her base, right?
Yeah, that's all I have to do.
Okay, so then you'll soon be able to wash your hands of these models.
That's the hope.
Yeah. No, that'll be great.
Move on to something else.
We'll see after I finish painting this Space Marine that I'm working on. Maybe I'll paint the Sister of Battle that I converted.
Charred Remains. That was the original name of Man is the Bastard. So that the influential power violence band that later became Bastard Noise.
Yeah.
Oh. They used to be called Charred Remains.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I didn't either.
Well, so that's kind of what we've been working on as of late. Do you have any exciting things to talk about, Greg, or anything you've been working on?
I mean, I've still been messing around a little bit with trying to make noise music with a mixer and some guitar pedals and stuff. And
Can you send a picture of the setup you have?
Yeah, give me a moment. Let me look. I also a little synthesizer, handmade synthesizer by someone named Michael Rucci. That it's just for making droning sounds, and then distort. All right, I almost have a picture to send.
Well, in general, what are your thoughts of how that's going? Or like are you happy? Oh, look at all that stuff. Wow, I don't know like what any of that is.
Well, so back top left, that's Xenochew, a little Xenomorph Pikachu. But then bottom left is the actual mixer. And I'm using the first channel and the second channel. In the first channel, I have the little synthesizer is on the bottom right with the 5 knobs. And that's hooked up to a delay pedal, which is the blue guy.
Blue delay.
Yeah, the blue delay. And then the blue delay is going into the Boss Metal Zone distortion pedal. Whoa. Which then is going into input number 1. Okay. And then, so I'm taking the droning sounds, running them through the delay, and then running them through the distortion pedal, so it distorts it. And what the delay pedal will do is it will kind of record a portion of what's going through it and then repeat it a certain number of times. And then the other pink pedal there is a reverb pedal that I have line 2s going into the reverb pedal, and then it's going into the FX send, which I don't even know what the FX send's used for. But then you twiddle the knobs and make sound.
Make noise. I'm having
fun with it. The synthesizer, I feel, has helped make things feel a little bit more full.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't know. I've been having fun with it. I've been considering getting a cheap cassette player that has a radio on it, and if I dial it between stations to pick up like static, and then hook that to a distortion pedal or something, and distort that. Or potentially even just get some tape of some whatever, the Jurassic Park theme song, and run that through the delay pedal and the distortion pedals and see what that does. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's fun.
But yeah, so I've been having fun with it. We'll see. Sometime maybe when I have something I'm happy with, I'll release it somehow. And aside from that, one thing that I could mention, I'm gonna link it. recently on Drive-Through RPG, so
Oh, okay.
the way to buy RPG products digitally, perhaps the largest one. A group called Tuesday Night Games released a collection of it's close to 60 two-page RPG adventures in there by a whole bunch of people from across the RPG community, and the profits are going to the National Bail Fund Network, which
That's
is
cool.
used to pay bails for people who maybe got imprisoned for protesting, or a bunch of it is also pertaining to immigration as well. And so there are adventures in it for Morkborg, Mothership, Troika, Dungeon Crawl Classics, Ultraviolet Grasslands. So, like, a lot of the more independent, interesting RPGs, and like tons of different creators. The layout was done by Johan Noor, so the guy who did the layout for Morkborg, or I think it was a combination between Noor and Sean McCoy, who did the layout for Mothership, which Mothership's a pretty neat RPG about playing sci-fi adventures in like spaceships and whatnot. But so if any of you have any interest in RPGs, it's something to check out, because it's all for a good cause and a lot of talented people are involved. And since they're just two-page adventures, they sound like they would be very much something good for if you need to run something, just quickly read it and just start it up.
Yeah.
Not too much preparation. So, something worth looking into.
The cover is really cool on it, too.
I guess something. So it's been a while since we talked about like music that I've been listening to, but recently I've been listening to an album by the Melvins called Bullhead. And if any of you are, the Melvins are a long-standing, I'm gonna say sludge metal band, but whether you say they're that anymore, I don't know. They kind of started the sludge metal scene, so really slow, heavy guitar sort of stuff. But they've released so many albums and experimented with so many different styles. I don't know that I would pigeonhole them into sludge metal anymore. But
well, the Melvins are legendary.
Yeah, the Melvins, Kurt Cobain from Nirvana, he was friends with the guys in the Melvins, Buzz Osborne and Dale Crover. Kurt had actually apparently tried out for a position playing bass for him, but I guess was so nervous that he forgot all the songs. So Kurt never did play bass for him. But the album Bullhead has the first song on it is called Boris, and that is the song that the legendary Japanese metal experimental band Boris took their name from. And it's a great song. And there's a lot, and also, if any of you have listened to the Melvins, most of their lyrics are kind of just, I'm going to say, gibberish, or the meaning behind a lot of it doesn't immediately present itself. But the song Boris has a line in it that is, let me think of it. I said I can't, but it really means I won't. that was great.
So the album cover of Bullhead looks to be like a basket of fruit.
It's pretty cool.
Love it.
Yeah. Probably my favorite song on the album is called If I Had an Exorcism. But I mean, it's all great.
Whoa, the song Boris is like 8 minutes long.
Yeah, it's pretty long, and like maybe 6 minutes into it, it kind of just stops and then starts up again. It's weird.
The
Melvins were always pretty weird.
Yeah, no, they're worth listening to. The Melvins.
They have a song called Honey Bucket, which is like one of the rockinest songs you've ever heard.
It really is.
But anyway, so listen to the Melvins if you're not familiar with them.
Yeah, you should. Alright, so that's kind of what we've been up to. Kind of a whole range of different things. It's good to hear you've been working at stuff, Greg. Maybe we can eventually use some of your noise to some of that can be added to the podcast and stuff. People would love to hear that, I'm sure.
Maybe,
yeah.
Oh, I guess I could say on my hat I have this little pin, and it's a pin of the mascot from the USA Gundam store.
That's a nice pin.
Florida-based store that sells model kits, though primarily Gundam model kits. They're great if you want to get Gundam model kits and you live in the United States. It's a good place to get them. We're not being compensated by USA Gundam store.
No,
we don't have sponsors.
Okay, so yeah, now that we're done talking about what we're up to, I guess the main thing that we can talk about today is the new Indomitus. Is that what it's called? The Warhammer 40,000 box game. I'm looking at it right now. Indomitus.
Yeah, there was a pseudo unboxing over the weekend where they showed what was going to be in here, and overall, I think this stuff looked pretty good.
I like the cover of it, actually.
I mean, some of the stuff we've already kind of talked about from some of the, other streams and reveals and things like that, but we can say a little bit more now that I feel there are better pictures of some of the stuff as well as some just new things.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it. I guess we hadn't really seen this dude here, like what might be the leader of that like veteran squad.
Captain.
Okay, who has the shield with the skeleton and stuff on it.
He was basically in that trailer, right? Or that
something similar to that. He looks fine. I think the most interesting thing is how his helmet, it like swivels upward. Like, I don't know. I feel I could speak for a lot of people and say they never imagined that would be swiveling upward like that.
Yeah, I can't say I did either.
But it's okay. Are you sort of questioning
like where the hinge is?
Yeah, why would you ever do that?
Yeah, I don't know.
But
I think some of them have additional heads, so maybe they.
Oh, yeah. Like, well, it's interesting. I don't know if I love it, but it's fine.
The shield is kind of over the top, but I feel it's not as bulky and overdone as it could have been, so that's something.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have that, or maybe he does somewhere, but he doesn't have that huge holster to hold his Volkite pistol that we've already railed on enough. Yeah. So they're fine.
Yeah, there's the Primaris Lieutenant dude.
Yeah.
It has one of those. Theirs looks pretty dumb.
The Primaris, is this a it is actually a chaplain, right? So the Primaris chaplain they showed, he's pretty cool. I feel he looks a lot more like a traditional chaplain. Like they made a Primaris chaplain before, right? Who had kind of like a weird, almost like a trench coat, and he had like a rib cage like breastplate and kind of a stupid skull helm. And
yeah, because VW struggles to make a cool looking skull helmet.
Yeah. But he overall looks pretty good. I feel he's close to like a standard Space Marine chaplain. And
I feel he kind of reminds me of some of the old Jess Goodwin sculpts.
Oh yeah, like certainly the detailing and stuff on his legs. That's very much like kind of classic chaplain look to them.
I guess he's the Primaris chaplain because he has that weird executioner pistol, or
yeah,
I actually have no idea if it's called that, but it's some
probably is.
I feel he's good. He's not wildly over the top, but it's a nice little chaplain.
I mean, I think one thing that we can say, par for the course, he's standing on a rock. It is sort of weird, like, so he's standing on a rock and the foot in the back, it's like he's like lifting off. So his pose is a little weird, but it's not as weird as some. But I had heard people were talking about that every captain or leader model in the box, they're all standing on rocks. Like, so the Primaris captain with the shield, he's just standing on top of a whole collection of rocks.
Maybe you don't have to put him on that.
Yeah, the chaplain, well, this is probably about as good as you could hope for. He's standing on a rock, but it's not that bad. So overall, he looks good. I think he's pretty cool. We've already, well, I guess no, this executioner dude, the Judicar, he's not standing on a rock.
Yeah,
so that's something. We talked about him.
He's okay.
Okay, they have a Blade Guard Ancient, which is, I guess, like a standard bearer. And this, I feel, is almost one of the more interesting models. There are a lot of things. Overall, I think I like the model. Does he really not have a shoulder pad on his right shoulder?
It looks like he doesn't.
It doesn't look like he has one.
I feel the model is kind of weird that he like all of this release is sort of struggling to figure out how do we want to do robes on Space Marines. And like the older, like Dark Angels, for example, they just were completely over top of it, such that it wouldn't restrict the movement as much. Whereas these ones, they have like tend to be the loincloths, but they have the weird tabard like going underneath the breastplate that would probably partially restrict your rotation motion, which is awkward. But then this one has that, but then he also has sort of stuff going over his shoulders. So it almost seems like part of it, I mean, is outside, part of it's inside. It's sort of I don't really know what's going on with that.
Yeah, it's different. And like, yeah, I don't know. I kind of like the look of it. He's also sort of weird. He has this like this extra shield like by his one shoulder that's kind of just hanging there. Like, how's that attached? Like, it just kind of looks strange to me. It looks a little too large to make that much sense.
It's also not really in the position to protect his like the joints in his armor.
No, to me it looks like if anything struck it, it would just immediately fall off, almost like it was just pinned to his heavy leather tunic. But
I mean, I kind of like the banner itself.
Do you?
Or
I don't really like it.
Well, I guess I sort of, I feel it's the best representation of that idea. Like, they tried to do them in Age of Sigmar a bunch, and they look kind of weird or not achieved like they wanted to. And this one isn't as bulky and huge as
I feel if the whole thing was smaller, and the skeleton looks a little forced to me.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
He does look a little forced.
Like some of the Horus Heresy Ultramarine stuff, and like Marnius Kalgar, on his base, he has these like little, almost like little banners that have just like little plates with like names and stuff, and like iron halos and stuff. Let's just try and find a picture.
Did we talk about how he's standing up on a rock? His foot's up on a rock. Like, why do they keep doing that? I mean, it's not too high up on a rock, but it is.
Yeah, I feel it's like they think it makes the model look more dynamic, and I don't really think it does, particularly when it's so minimal.
Oh, Dave said that he has some Melvin songs with Jello Biafra singing Alice Cooper songs. I don't know if I heard those, but I know on the Melvins, they have an album called Lysol, or it was originally called Lysol, and then I think they got maybe a cease and desist order because Lysol is a brand name. But that album has 2 Alice Cooper covers on it, which are great. Second Coming and the Ballad of White Fry. And I guess it could be said that particular album, Lysol, was perhaps the album that really helped bring in the notion of drone doom metal. They have a song on it called Hung Bunny. It's like 10 minutes long. It's just like a long, droney riff. It's great. But anyway, we'll stop talking about the Melvins.
So I brought up, like, you can't get any pictures from Forge World anymore because they're still like shut down. But I feel like if the banner was something more like what you see on Gulliman's like banners and stuff, where we just have like a whole small series of small, even like these are too big. And I know they had a special edition like Forge World Ultramarine model who had a banner that largely looked terrible, but it was something more along the lines of that. I think that might be kind of cool. But I mean, I think this banner, it's not terrible, and I feel it's certainly usable. And could certainly be used in different conversions and stuff, but yeah, I think overall I like the model. But it is weird he's missing one of his shoulder pads. And
I think Sylvania asked what we guess the price is. I feel it's gonna be $200.
I think it's gonna be that cheap.
I feel the last box was maybe 160, I think we said in one of the last streams. So I feel this will be 180, 200.
Yeah, I feel that. At least
we'll see.
At least that. So we've talked about the Ancient enough. Overall, he's pretty cool.
Interesting look.
Alright, they have Eradicators. Are these like the more heavily armored, like, are they in the Gravis armor? Okay.
The Necromunda box was like almost $300, so it certainly could be that. But I kind of feel they'll try to...
I mean, that had all the terrain and stuff in it too, right?
Yeah, which this does not.
But this has a lot more models.
Keep the price at least slightly lower to try to get more people to buy it, but it wouldn't surprise me too much if it was similar to that.
Yeah. So I feel it's nice that they have more models in this Gravis armor, because I think this armor in general I think could be pretty useful for converting kind of beefier looking Space Marines, and maybe even trying to convert a Terminator or something. And I guess these
their
ones.
legs are so widespread.
Yeah. These ones, I guess, have a new melta weapon. Do they say what the
long
name?
range melta rifle or something?
These don't look good. Like, to me, it's like they didn't really have any real ideas for them, so they just took a bunch of visual elements from a lot of the different guns, combined them together, and then added the melta barrel at the front.
Well, at least they don't have all these cables going to their backpacks.
That is better. When they release the multi-part plastic ones, they probably will. But what I find is like the worst is they have that foregrip that's like attached to the rail on the top of the gun. It's like, what the fuck is that?
Is it on the rail or is it offset? It could be offset. I can't quite tell.
It really looks like it's on the rail to me. But it's like, what the fuck? Like, how would you even aim that? I guess it's a Space Marine, so it doesn't matter, but, like, that's, like, awkward.
It seems like a weird thing. Well, because there's even, like, underneath it, there's, like, kind of the grooving for the foregrip. Suggests that that's how you could hold it, but then you don't.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really awkward. And another thing that's interesting, so...
They have their wrist bent unnaturally, like they always do.
Yeah. So yeah, the weapons are like a complete and utter fail for me. Like, they don't look good. They don't really give the impression of a longer range melta weapon. How they hold them is stupid. They couldn't aim them. Like, I don't know. They're bad. Like,
but you might be able to do something to make, like, void power armor or something.
Yeah, like, I think the armor,
I think so.
The armored suits themselves are cool, and you could use them for lots of things, so they're fine. Just get rid of those melta weapons. They're dumb. Here's an overexposed picture of... This is, like, tremendously overexposed. Like, what the fuck happened here? They look fine. They're good. The bikers...
That'll be nice.
We laughed about these a bunch before. They're cool. It's just... They might have trouble driving. The Necrons...
They can't even drive over their bases.
No, they're rough.
Yeah.
The Necrons. Oh, so here's the first Necron Lord guy. He's standing on a rock. Hallelujah. But this isn't too bad.
This model is maybe the worst looking Necron in the box.
I like his face. I like his arms. I don't really like all the tassels he has, and the weapon is maybe a little big. But
he should have a cool cape.
He doesn't.
He should have a cool cape like some of the older Necron Lords.
For some reason, he, to me, seems as though they didn't have many ideas to push with this, and didn't push like a creepy element like some of the other models.
Yeah, he looks...
I'm not even sure what all it is to me, but I feel it, of all the new Necron things I've seen, this one seems one of the more ho-hum.
He has a hyperphase glaive, though. That's cool.
Yeah.
He looks fine. I think he's pretty neat. I like his head. He's just a slight redesign of some of the older Necron characters and lords, and I will say I think he looks nicer than all of those older fine-cast lords.
He looks like a refined version of those kind of bad-looking fine-cast lords that came out when they redesigned the Necron lore. But that's not saying a huge amount.
That's true.
Well, let's not say a huge more about him anymore. Let's go to the next
Lord Sylvania says, anytime a weapon name contains the word hyper, the writer should be fired.
Yeah.
What's it called again?
hyperphase glaive. Well, okay, so let's think about it this way. The Necrons obviously don't call that weapon that. It's just the Imperium. The dumb fucks of the Imperium have come up with that name.
That's probably true.
So this, they have another character who's the Necron character. He's standing on a rock. The Royal Warden. I was actually kind of excited about him. Like, this was kind of another...
Like, oh, that's a character?
Yeah, another character that you thought they didn't really need. And he's just looks like a mobile, like, gun platform. And this one, he actually kind of looks like he has kind of like a half cape or something on his back, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, he's good.
I think he's pretty cool.
I mean, he seems like just a bigger, more substantial looking immortal, and that's cool because they're
okay. He's armed with a relic Gauss blaster. Like, what? A relic Gauss blaster. Like,
so you know it's old.
Like, what? Yeah.
The naming conventions for Games Workshop products has never been a strong suit.
No.
So it's fine.
Then we have a Plasmancer. Okay, so he's probably a Cryptek. Oh wait, yeah. Plasmancers are a mysterious class of Cryptek, also known as Harbingers of Destruction.
I like him.
Yeah, he's cool. It's interesting how he doesn't actually have any legs. And he's pointing at us. Like, I think I like the fact that they're doing a little, they're changing the physiognomy and like the body shapes and stuff of some of the Necrons a little more than they had in the past. I like his kind of little neck brace type thing. Like, that's cool. And then the Crypto Thralls. These little things are pretty cute.
When I first saw them, I was like, "Oh, praise the Lord! They may be making new flayed ones, but they do. That does not seem to be the case."
I think
it kind of looks like looks like a big searchlight with a head in the.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting between the two heads. Like, one of them, his head's closed, and the other one, it's like slightly opening up, which I think is kind of fun. They're weird. Yeah. They're really weird. Their body shape's strange. They look like kind of like a little turbine with a head stuck on it and some legs and Tyranid arms. But I kind of think they're cute. I like them. They're different.
What's a new unit type that seems like a new idea?
They fight with the Cryptex. We talked about this Destroyer Lord guy. He's kind of cool.
Hey friends, I should go to bed. So I think I'm rocking out of here, but you all can keep talking. Thanks everybody for joining us. Keep on rocking in the free world if you're in the United States and in other free places if you're not.
Yeah, nice having you here, Greg.
Thanks.
Million-year-old trash cans. That is what those little dudes look like that we talked about earlier.
They do.
These like little close combat destroyers. They look pretty nice.
I like them.
Here's what's this little like floating plasma orb. He's interesting.
Yeah, he's a funny looking thing.
They help the ability to infuse the destroyers with tainted energy makes already dangerous. Okay. It's weirdly cute. I agree, it is weirdly cute. It's interesting how it kind of looks like it's like a little orb, but that has these like little claws and it floats along and like.
Alright, my computer's probably about to crash. I'll be back shortly.
Alright, Eric. Cool. But yeah, so I don't know. This little floating orb looks pretty neat to me. I feel this model, I think, people will be able to take it and components of it and integrate them with all sorts of like larger mechs and constructs and crafts. So like that's kind of neat. And it has like a little tiny scarab on the base. Then they have this reanimator, like War of the Worlds construct. I think we talked a little bit about this before, but that was before they had these like slightly nicer pictures. What does it actually say about it? Will keep your machine legions in the fight against even the most withering enemy assaults, even while its atomizer beam lances out to disintegrate those who would threaten its charges. Okay. So I like the model, like it's super tall and interesting looking. Again, it has more of an alien feel to it, and in many regards kind of that classic War of the Worlds alien look to it, which is kind of neat. I think we had touched on this before, but if you're actually playing a Necron army, a lot of these larger constructs, they're going to be a nightmare to transport. But they're cool. It kind of has like this weird little like turbine thing towards the back, which is interesting. I don't know if they show pictures, but they have another version where it has like a cannon or whatever at the top of it, which I imagine is just more of like a heavy support variant of it.
Are we talking about the reanimator, or are we?
Yeah, well, I just largely finished talking about the reanimator.
I think they revealed some other pictures of that thing that with some other weapon types and such, which is fun. Kind of reminds me a little bit of a Stalker from Half-Life 2.
Yeah. They redesigned the little scarabs again, and I like them. They kind of have... They look a little more agile than the last plastic variants did. And it's also interesting that they sort of vary a little in size.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, I love the old ones too, and it's nice to see that the new ones are still great. And they're still cute. And yeah, the different sizes I think is fun. And it kind of fits with the idea of them being a swarm of various little scarab sizes. And it's also fun because some of the other models have little scarabs on their bases and such of varying sizes, and it's nice that it fits with these ones.
They're little singular eye I like, and then they have like a little orb or whatever in the center of their being. They're cool.
Yeah, they're cute.
Do you think they'll actually have boxes of these? Because I think in the past, did they even have a plastic box of the little scarab swarms, or were they kind of?
I think they just came on with the normal Necrons.
The warriors and stuff? Yeah, that's kind of a weird thing, and I can't imagine... Because, like, the Ripper swarms for the Tyranids are like that, too, right? They're just on some of the sprues and stuff, which I think is kind of stupid, but... I guess we'll see. But it's in the box of the game.
Mm-hmm.
The Necron Warriors, they look pretty good.
I guess it has been since revealed that the other weapon, which I thought could have been like a heavy Gauss blaster or something, is not the case. It's just a different type of... there's a new weapon option now. One of them has a shorter range, so...
A shorter range, but harder hitting Gauss Reaper. That's a Gauss Reaper.
Yeah, so I was wrong about that. But I feel...
Yeah.
If that was like a heavy Gauss blaster or whatever that the Immortals have, I feel the size would maybe look better, but...
Yeah. Well, they're
still
good.
Cool looking. I like them.
I would sort of be interested. Like, we'll see how much time I actually have, but like I would sort of be interested to take one or two of these little Necron warriors themselves and modify them a bunch, make their weapons smaller, and all that stuff that we always harp about, and kind of see what they'd look like. But I like them. They show a picture of the core rulebook, the Indomitus edition. The artwork is good.
I mean, I'm excited to see what the new rulebook is like, because there've been talk that there's a bunch of new artwork in it, and I mean, they've shown a little bit of it, and a lot of it was pretty neat and interesting looking, with different kind of Xenos little pictures and vignettes and such. So I'm excited to see what they do with it, and hopefully it has some interesting lore and such in it, and there's a lot of good kind of world building and illustrations and stuff in it, and it's not just completely rehashing old stuff. Or
Yeah.
And if they do rehash some old stuff, hopefully it's well curated. So yeah, I'm excited to see that aspect and see they make a nice digital version of it that I will probably get and rarely look at it. I will read through it all.
Yeah. So yeah, the box looks good, but it does come with a fuck ton of stuff. Like, I feel I would sort of be surprised if this is less than $200.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Like, there are at least like 20 Necron warriors, I think. Tons of different character models for each force. Like, yeah, there's a fuck ton of stuff in that. And the decals, all the decals. They have decals for all the cool Space Marine legions. The Dark Angels. They even have a Ravenwing ones. The Space Wolves. Do they have the Mantis Warriors? I doubt it. Doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it. That's too bad. But yeah, so it's interesting how the new... Every time they release a new boxed game for either, I guess, we'll just say 40K, they kind of really go bigger and bigger and bigger and try and give you more and more stuff to get like a better and better like starting force. Like for the last edition, it gave you like the Death Guard stuff and the Primaris Space Marine stuff, and like they gave you a fair amount of stuff, but this, it's a lot more than even that. And I feel it's sort of a little more interesting in that they have Necrons.
Yeah.
So I guess in addition to that, they also had some
revealed
stuff
some new models. Like, most of these things we had already partially seen.
Yeah. And probably the weirdest thing, the thing no one was expecting or probably really wanting,
the ATV.
Was the ATV.
Well, it's like a new attack bike, but not great looking.
Oh, so there's like a video. I didn't watch the video.
It just has some 360 views of that and the anti-air looking thing. You know, I don't know, like aspects of it I think look good. I think the main thing to me about the ATV though kind of stems from the general issues of the bikes, which we already talked. It just looks like there's the suspension's so messed up, which admittedly the suspension in the back, you can see it looks like it kind of swivels and would actually work, but the front is just so low, and I can see why it immediately people's like, oh, this will probably go into Mario Kart soon.
Yeah. Well, and then even
so much like a go-kart.
And the driver at the front, it almost looks like, does he even have feet?
Well, he certainly doesn't have a backpack.
Yeah, which that's fine. Like, he's wired in there or something. But, like, you don't see his feet. And then I like the Gatling gun on it. It's pretty small, all things considered. But he couldn't even turn it, right?
Well, certainly that antenna there would make it difficult.
But even that, like, how could he would actually have to start climbing up on the side to actually turn it?
He would certainly have to do that to turn it much, which, I mean, I feel that's all. It would always be somewhat of an issue, but I feel perhaps it could have been engineered to.
Well, yeah, they could have designed this such that they could actually swivel it, and I don't know. This, I feel, of all the stuff that they've shown, this is the dumbest.
And I think it looks a little bit like the Warthog from Halo, but if it looked a little bit more like that, it would be better.
Yeah, I don't know. This
just
like
so much. It looks so much like a go-kart because of the
well,
front.
and then the other thing that like is like baffling to me, like all previously, like all the Primaris vehicles and stuff, they all had grav technology and stuff, right? Like all of their heavily armored tanks would float. Like, why isn't this just a new land speeder? If this could float, it would make a lot more sense.
Wasn't Jess Goodwin on the stream, the reveal stream, and he talked about it, saying that they didn't want to just make every new Primaris thing a grav thing, and they wanted some variety. But I agree that I feel the way these things were designed, the bikes in this, it's just so. The design is so weird and doesn't seem like it would work that well, and it would struggle driving over things, that if it was just slightly redesigned and kept with the anti-grav stuff, like Belisarius Call took 10,000 years, but he designed the best new land speeder and the best new bikes, I think it would substantially alleviate a lot of people's
complaints,
like eye rolling and questions. Because certainly elements of it look pretty nice, but overall,
I just sort of question why.
Yeah.
Then they have this like little servo turret thing. I mean, it's a heavy weapon platform. It's kind of cool, but like, I don't.
It also seems a little wide. I don't love the idea of having like a big cable going into his eye socket.
No, I don't know either. Well, like, how do they even get this? Do they drop it out of like a Thunderhawk gunship or something?
I assume it must be that.
Like,
I don't know.
I don't.
I feel it looks fine, but sort of unnecessary. It's like, I guess that's a tech marine.
Yeah.
This one gets dropped in with his autocannon. It's not bad, and I feel it would work nicely if like you're trying to make terrain or some fortress or something. It would fit super well there. But as in just like a model to have in your army, it seems sort of weird. Although it'll probably be like ridiculously good. Like, oh my god, it's so cheap to get all these auto cannons in my list to destroy small vehicles, or I don't know, something. Obviously, if anyone actually plays the game, you'd probably realize that I don't know what I'm talking about. But I could still see it being something like that. That it's.
Next, they have a heavy destroyer. This heavy destroyer to me really brings back memories of some of Jess Goodwin's like older sketches and stuff of the destroyers, particularly like
awesome.
Well, like the larger turbines and stuff towards the bottom of the model. Like, I like them. Like, I feel if the cannon he's carrying wasn't quite so big, it would look a lot nicer, because like the model itself is really bulky and kind of terrifying looking, and Yeah, I don't like the gun, but like everything else about it, I think is kind of neat. He's
Yeah, I
fitted
feel the
with a
same thing we always say that
yeah.
the gun sort of detracts from how imposing and cool the destroyer itself is. But even with that said, I think it looks good. And I feel this is taking elements of the Necron design and such in making something new, but still staying true with it without like being kind of head scratching. Which I feel some of that the Primaris stuff, like that ATV and even the
Yeah.
turret thing, those to me are a little bit like, well, I can kind of see where you're coming from, but it maybe doesn't work as well as you're hoping it would. But
Mhm.
this, I think, it works really well.
Yeah, I agree. Um oh, the Doom Stalker. That's the name of the one that has the heavier weapons and stuff. And like, I don't, it's fine. It's kind of neat. I thank God these are all plastic, because if they still had the plastic metal hybrid models, like this would fall apart.
God, if it was resin, that would be terrible.
Yeah. Because all the
Yeah,
pieces would slowly start to like bend and twist under the weight.
yeah, I
Um,
like it a lot. Although it does get back to something I think you'd mentioned a few times earlier. I wouldn't really want to have this because
no.
it would just be it's so large and tall. It would be hard to store. It easily, I feel, put it on a shelf and knock it off. Or I
I
mean, I
really
guess the base is
I
pretty
really
large.
like a lot of these larger constructs. They have these big, like, sort of like energy reactor cores. Like, I feel all of that stuff would work super well for just experimenting with and making kind of fun little aircrafts and ships and like robots and stuff. So like I feel
Well, this whole thing, I feel you could just pull off the leg component and it would be a neat little hovering
well, I mean,
crab
if you
like
pull those
thing.
legs off and attach some of those ATV components, and like you'd have something really cool.
Oh, yeah. The
Gabe
best.
Thorpe's writing a novel. That's interesting.
And
So
he's a good writer. I
yeah,
wonder. I could see it being sort of tough to be saddled with this to try to like write something for this box set, but I don't know. Hopefully, enough of creative freedom was allowed, and there was some
hmm
back and forth stuff to make something interesting that actually kind of pushes at the narrative in a
yeah,
insightful, interesting way.
yeah, yeah. They also had like a thing where they're showing a little bit more about the motorcycles, and like they have like a little sketch of the motorcycle, which looks kind of neat. Um, but even this, like the sketch makes it, at least to a small degree, it looks as if it's a little higher off the ground than the actual
Uh,
model. At least this
but it still looks like
undercarriage.
something that would be for riding on paved roads,
Yeah, which seems a little weird.
which isn't like something you'd probably want to use in
Um,
the war zone of 40K. But I don't know.
well, even like they have this picture of them fighting some destroyers and stuff. Like, I don't think they
Mm,
couldn't get into where they're driving.
the base is there to help that.
Yeah. Well, actually, this picture, they also have that guy holding the shield. They do have a different head for him, where he doesn't even have a helmet. Hopefully, they have another head where he just has his helmet, normal helmet like, and not visored up.
Yeah, yeah.
um. Yeah. So they're in the box. Um. They're okay.
Yeah, so They're what we said before.
Yeah. They're okay.
Maybe we're done talking about these models then.
I think we are. We've talked enough about them.
Yeah. One thing that had occurred to me, I think we've mentioned it briefly on this before, but there's a podcast that I feel is worth listening to called Imperial Rebel Ork podcast, and they have an Instagram account of kind of the same name, but they've been releasing, or he's been releasing almost like 2 episodes a week, but I think he's going to be cutting back to 1 a week, which is still quite a lot. But he actually just had a recent episode talking about Inc. 28 and sort of describing it, what it is to him, and talking about some people that he thinks are kind of important in the Inc. 28 scene or a good representation of it. And that's pretty neat. I feel I would encourage people to listening to it. He mentions us in it briefly, particularly about that we have an episode of our podcast, Dragged into Turbo Lasers, about the Pilgrim game. And he mentions that people could listen to it. It's like, yeah, I looked at it. Yeah, it's episode 9 of our podcast. Like, that was a long time ago. 2016.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, so
that was
a long time ago. We're at like maybe episode 73 or something now, so it's pretty old. But it encouraged me to go back and find the original audio files and such, and I re-edited it the other day to try to make it sound a little bit better. And
That's
I think
good.
It's helped. Like, unfortunately, my particular recording has a lot of background hum in it. I don't know how that happened, but
listening
I was able to
air
reduce.
Conditioner hum.
Yeah, it's not that
good.
It's not the Warren Zevon sort of good sounding air conditioner hum.
No.
Regardless, but I did some editing, so I feel it's maybe more listenable than it had been before. Because I feel back at that time, I didn't really know what I'm doing. Not to say that I maybe know a huge amount of what I'm doing about it now, but I'm better at editing and more conscious of what I'm doing than I was at that time.
Yeah.
But it was still kind of fun to go back and listen to it and hear kind of us recount that event and going to Warhammer World for the first time. All those things was fun.
Maybe I should go back and listen to it.
Yeah, so if people haven't listened to it before, I mean, you could do it. Might be sort of fun. It was nice to just sort of think about it and relive the event a little bit through it. So, and yeah, just wanted to thank Imperial Rebel Ork for mentioning it, and suggest people could listen to it themselves or listen to his podcast in general, because it's fun, and most of the episodes are only like 20 to 30 minutes long, so it's not too.
It's easier to fit the episodes in depending on what you're doing, or on a commute or something like that. Yeah. Do we have anything else that we can talk about or we want to talk about, Eric?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's a whole lot going on. I have to get back to painting.
Finishing the Sister of Battle?
Yeah, that, and I'll probably try to add on that Arcoflagellant like you suggested.
Oh, yeah. The scoring or whatnot.
Yeah, I think but yeah, I don't know if there's much else going on.
Yeah.
No more models to complain about. Or I guess one thing I guess over the weekend there the new Aeronautica Imperialis box came out, and I've seen at least a few places people assembling them. And goddamn, the little Valkyrie, the 8mm Valkyrie gunships, they sure are cute. They sure are cute.
They are very cute.
Kind of makes me want to buy it to get some of the little like lightning fighters and the Valkyries and stuff, just because wow, they're adorable. And I feel they're some of the best 40K flyer designs as well. So
yeah, I really like them.
Dave or Unsupervised Darkness asked about what metal finishes that we're using.
Does that mean like the metal paints and stuff, or you know?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure I understand the question, Dave. In the past, a lot of the metallics and stuff that I've been using were, oh yeah, the metals, were like scale 75 metals. But for this, like, the little Space Marine that I'm working on painting, like, I got a whole slew of these Vallejo metal color paints, and that's what I'm experimenting with now.
I feel they're like even just Vallejo, they make so many different metallic ranges.
Oh yeah, they have so many different ones.
When I started to paint, I got some Vallejo Game Air metallics, and they were okay, but they didn't go through my airbrush very well. I feel because of the size of like the metal pigments or flakes or something, and since my airbrush is a pretty small needle, then I had heard some people saying that Vallejo metallic air paints are pretty nice and better, and I got some of them, and now I've been using them a bunch, and they are better in that regard.
And those are different than these metal color ones, right?
Yeah. Okay. And then they have these, I think, even newer one, these metal color ones, and I think they're even better. At least from the gold one I've used, is really thin, like really, really thin, and it also doesn't dry up that quickly. So if you have it on like a dry palette, you can work with it for a while, because oftentimes putting metal acrylic paints on like a wet palette results in all the little metal flakes leaching into the sponge or whatever, and can maybe not be the best thing. So yeah, but the model metallic airs are pretty good, but I guess
these metal color ones, I've only used them like literally today, and I think they actually work really well. I really like how they handle.
They have a ball bearing in them for mixing, which is nice.
Yeah,
they give you a bunch of it, and I guess since I've only used the gold is like really nice. It's a pretty bright gold, but it's good. It works really nicely with a paintbrush.
Like these little containers have like 32 mils. Like the standard like dropper bottle for like scale 75
is 17 maybe.
Yeah, it's like 17 mils. So they give you a lot of paint. They're pretty expensive. Like I feel each one's roughly like $10. But
he's wondering if we use like a wash, if to add like a patina or anything to them. Will you do anything like that, Adam?
I think what I'm going to do, well actually let's just bring up the picture of the, okay, so here is the start of the Silver Space Marine that I'm working on. He was primed with a black, and then I base coated him with like a dark silver, and then did kind of a zenithal highlight with a lighter silver. And
is that picture having done the highlight?
Yes. And I feel moving forward from here, I will probably go and further refine some of the different areas, make certain areas that catch the light even brighter, and then
how do you plan to go about doing that?
Just with the brush, go in and figure out areas that I think would catch the light a little more, and then
I guess,
just physically
are you
paint
going
it
to use
in.
a different metal color? Are you going to...
I feel I can probably actually use the same ones I've already used and just paint them on straight. But then I think I will also try and add some other filters and maybe shades of like black and stuff like that to kind of further deepen some of the shadows and stuff in areas that
you got some of those
the light's not really
panel
hitting.
liners.
Oh, yeah, I do have... That's true, actually.
You could try to use one of the black panel liners. Like, a thing you could use it, like, even just to test it on, like, the little, I don't know, gill marks on his helmet.
Yeah.
Or if even the kind of gill marks on his breastplate along the side, you could just see how it works. But if you would use it, I will say, with a little brush, you want to really wick off a bunch of it by just touching the side of the glass, because you don't need much of it.
So I will add some other like weathering and coloring and stuff to make the armor look a little more worn. So it's not going to be extremely polished and pristine. But some of that, I think it'll just be coming down to me experimenting with it and kind of seeing how things work. And certainly since
it's kind of hard to tell, like, how much of some of the shine and stuff on there is actual from the light hitting it, right? And it isn't because of...
That's correct. Like all these metal color paints are they have an extreme shine to them. And so it's the type of thing where it's hard to tell what is from like the actual light hitting on it and what's from like the actual paint. And like a lot of this variation stuff, I think, is just how the light is hitting it. But you can kind of see like a it almost looks like it's like a powder coating, like how it sort of has like a vague like texturing and like matte look to it. But I think some of these areas that are really catching the light, like if you look at the model on his chest, for instance, like in his abdomen area, like some of that I might actually go in and physically paint a little more of it like that with lighter and lighter silvers, just to kind of further accentuate some of those areas. But I think some of it's going to become, some of the stuff will become more apparent when I'm starting to add in some of the other detail colors and some of that stuff. But at this point, it's kind of hard to tell what's actually going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. I need to experiment a lot more with it.
Do you think you will use any like washes or anything like that, or?
I don't know yet. I
almost feel like some of like oil paints or something would probably work better for some stuff like that. Like, I don't know. I have the one oil brusher. It's called like Starship Filth, I think. And it's like a really dark gray.
Yeah.
And I feel some stuff like that, I feel, could possibly be useful to
So I don't
areas and such.
I haven't decided yet. Like, I sort of feel like the webbing and stuff in between, like the armor paneling, I think I want that to be black. But
yeah,
so I could potentially even achieve that with just like the black contrast paint, or maybe even adding a bunch of like non-oil and stuff like that to kind of, or just glazing in black. I don't know. But yeah, so all that stuff that I have to experiment around with. And some of it, I think, like I think I'd probably want to pretty quickly start painting in some of the other spot colors, like the little eagle. Inks would actually probably work pretty well. I don't really have many inks to experiment with.
What color do people think the bolter should be?
Yeah, black ink would be great. I don't think I have any black inks. Do I? No, I don't think I do. Maybe I'll look into trying to find some other ones, but something like a black ink I think would be good, because you could sort of add it as kind of a filter over things. I don't know. I'm always a little weary of using some of the GW shades and stuff, because depending on how you mix them, and if you get enough water or something in them, sometimes they'll dry and they'll be like white specks and stuff all over the model. Have you ever seen that, Eric?
I haven't gotten that. Admittedly, the way I tend to thin them, if I do thin them, is with like Lamia medium, because I think they have a tendency.
No, I mean, yeah, I've done that as well, but
water,
you have to be careful.
Separate.
Yeah, because they'll separate and you'll get like literally white spots all over the model. Like, it's really bad.
I find I struggle to, or I guess GW shades and such, people love them, and I mean they're certainly very useful, but I kind of find they don't work as easily as maybe some people suggest they do. I find it can be very easy for you to put them on and then they dry in a way that doesn't look that good, or you try to fuss with it with your brush a little bit and then you partially peel it off such that it's uneven and such.
Oh no, so you have to be careful with like normal oil and stuff. Like, certainly if you do try and thin it, literally don't thin it with water. If you thin it with water and put a nice thin coat over something, chances are it's going to dry and there will be literally like white, almost like white flakes all over your model, and it'll be ruined.
I want to. I've even a chance some of that is like older formulations of it or something.
I mean, maybe that's true. Like, and like I know I've tried. I mean, even on the Slambo model that I recently painted, that it happened on that model a little. When I tried to, well, fuck it. No, it was even. I think I just painted a thin coat of Lamia media over the horns to kind of blend everything together a little bit, and that happened. So like any of that stuff, don't put a lot of water into it or anything to thin it, because you'll just fuck up your model. Or it's not guaranteed you'll fuck it up, but you could. So yeah, be careful.
Yeah, okay.
And so stuff like that, and like if you add too much of the shades, it like puddles and dries poorly, and like most of those effects, like I was never that happy with what the stuff turned out. It wasn't as controlled as I wanted the effects and stuff to be, so I tend to like avoid them. Lord Sylvania says, for black wash, there's really no substitute for oils. Yeah, so I have a lot of black a lot of oils and stuff like that, and so I feel like maybe that
I admit I don't really even
should work
have a
towards.
black oil paint, and I feel that would be good.
I have at least 2.
That would be good. Which, admittedly, that little, like the panel liner, that black panel liner is pretty. It's kind of just like an enamel black that
Yeah.
it works. If you want to do panel lining or edging and such, it works a whole hell of a lot better than like something like Null Oil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know, yeah, be careful with the shades. Use Lamia media and make sure you shake them really well as well.
Yeah, that is, I've certainly found that. Like, if you don't shake them well or they've been sitting around for a while, they can end up being really glossy. But then I found the same with the contrast paints too, for that matter. You don't get enough of the matte media or whatever that's in there.
Yeah, so be careful with all of that stuff, lest you ruin your model.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it also could be that there's maybe a small chance that like some of the like thoughts of it that I got, the formulation was a little off or something. I don't know. But it's happened on me on a few occasions where I feel almost ruined what I was working on. But yeah, certainly don't. If you want to get like a black acrylic wash or something, or a shade, just use acrylic paint with black paint, like acrylic paint with water to make it. Don't take Null Oil and thin it with just water. That will cause problems. Or most likely it will.
Not worth the risk.
No. But yeah, so now I have a lot of stuff to experiment on with this model, and I'm looking forward to it. And I feel like since it is so simple, like the color scheme and whatnot, it probably will go pretty quickly as well. So
I like some of the scale 75 metallics as well.
No, those have largely been what I've been using for the past few years. And we'll see, like, once I've used some of these metal color ones some more, I'll see if I'll see what I think about them. Yeah. Well, okay, so I don't know, maybe we want to call a close to the stream, Eric. Like, I think we've covered
I think
everything we wanted to.
I think we have.
So yeah, I guess thanks everybody for coming out and watching the stream. Sorry for all those who wanted to try and watch it on YouTube and couldn't.
Yeah, we'll have to keep watch over that and see if that's a permanent thing or if it's something we can fix.
Yeah. But I guess if we can't, have fun watching on Twitch.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks again everyone for joining us and chatting with us and commenting on what we're talking about. We will certainly be back chatting again soon, at the very least next week at a similar time. Hopefully by then this Space Marine here will be about finished, and I'll have some more to talk about some of these Vallejo metal color paints and my experiences with them. Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess everyone, thanks again. Until next time, stay safe. Yep. Keep on enjoying the hobby, and we will talk to you again soon.
Yep, see everybody. Thanks.
Over and out.